Mr. Griffith, good morning.
Good morning. You hear me now?
He's there. All right. Well, Mr. Griffith, I don't know if you have seen the newspapers this morning, but apparently you are big news. You are the big story on every newspaper in Trinidad and Tobago this morning because of your decision to step away from these anti-crime talks. What were some of the contributing factors to your decision?
Well, certainly. You hear me okay, Marlon?
Of course, yes, we are.
Yeah. I was the person who actually started the plan for the crime talks. This would have been in February this year. I started it. So obviously I did not want to be the person that would have been seen as the person that ended it. It seemed that I became the catalyst towards the reason for the Prime Minister not wanting to pursue these crime talks. In February, I stated that the criminal elements are not those who are on either side of the parliamentary bench. We need to circle the wagons, do what is required, not just put it into legislation, but put in proper operational tools, technology, to try to find ways to provide citizens with their fundamental right of safety and security. So I did that in February. The opposition leadership agreed. We both offered our assistance to as political leaders to the government. The Prime Minister immediately in a political meeting in Toko threw cold water on it. He said he's not going to do it. He doesn't want to. He changed his mind later on. And then all of a sudden, the goalpost started shifting, and it seemed that because of my involvement, he seemed, whether it is based on intimidation, whether it is that he can't face me, whether it is he's uncomfortable, whatever is the reason, I am not going to be seen as the avenue that is going to stop citizens from having an opportunity to have a safer way of life. So I have decided to step back and do what is required. It is up to the Prime Minister now. The ball is in his court. I see, unfortunately, this has been used as a political tool, these anti-crime talks. It should not be the case. It should not also be seen as a subcommittee of parliament, which is what the government has done by setting an agenda specifically for legislation. This was the same legislation that was there when I was my last 18 months as Commissioner of Police, where it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. Public trust and confidence in the police went up to 59%, and the country felt safer. So legislation is not the only avenue. However, after all of that, I think personalities have become a factor here, and we should not put personalities as an avenue. People should understand, if you're a politician, your job is to serve. And when you start to get petty and particular and immature, if that is the case, I will step back and let us see what happens now.
Yeah. But do you still think that you have some type of role to play in all of this?
Well, definitely what I will do. I mean, it is very unfortunate that the Prime Minister will personalize this whole situation. It goes right back to what Patrick Manning said, when he was the Prime Minister. If a certain person does not have his way, he gets offended, he takes it personal, and he gets totally out of control. The reason I did this is because the government is going to change. You would have seen that from the local government election. A 60,000 defeat of the PNM in a 30% election turnout. When you do the maths in a 60% general election turnout, you double both and you're going to get 120,000, which is exactly what was the difference in 2010. So you're going to get a repeat of 2010. I do not think the country can wait until the government changes in early 2025 or whenever. That is why I offered my service to try to help, not the government, but the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If the government was smart, they would have utilized that, because crime is going to be the main factor that's going to have them removed. But sometimes personalities get involved. And so I would assist the opposition. I will continue to offer my services to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But the government, they are the ones that will be the catalyst towards making decisions to reduce crime. And if they do not know what to do, they are unable to know what to do. I mean, even with the team that the Prime Minister has selected for these anti-crime talks, when you look at that team, it is equivalent to the batting lineup of the West Indies team in the one-day international qualifiers, where we did not qualify. So even from that, you do not have quality persons who have the capability to find proper policies, tools, and even the political will to reduce crime. I will make myself available for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I will always try to be a patriot before being a politician.
Yeah. So I suspect because of this decision that you have taken, and I know that the opposition leader has spoken about having the crime talks back on track. So I suspect that was the aim, that was the rationale for you to step away from these talks for the talks to get back on track.
Yeah, definitely, because it seemed that the red herrings started coming into play. Goalposts started being shifted. So first, the prime minister did not have the common courtesy to respond to the opposition leader. Then two, he brought in the attorney general to write to the opposition leader. Then the attorney general, in local parlance, forced out of place to give the opposition leader a deadline. He then selected an agenda without an input. They then decided to say, well, we will have 5 and you will have 4. And everything, they kept trying to find an avenue to cause the NT and the UNC to say, look, enough is enough. We have refused to take that beat. And now he came up with well, it is because of Gary Griffith. You can't be intimidated by an individual. You're a prime minister. It shows that he has some degree of a fear factor intimidation. And it certainly cannot be because of the character or the personality of the individual. Because there are 3 major political leaders involved in these anti-crime talks. The political leader of the PNM, the UNC, and the NT. I am proud to say that I am one of those 2 political leaders that have never been under any type of investigation by the Integrity Commission. I have never been investigated or a person of interest by the police. One of 2 persons of political leaders can boast about that. I can. So I have everything to give me the reason for being there, especially based on the fact that as Minister of National Security, it was the highest reduction in serious crime in 30 years. As I said, as the Commissioner of Police, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. Why would you not want someone there? You can't use personality and hatred and bitterness and immaturity and inferiority complex to do what is right for the country. So I have stepped back to allow the government to not have any red herrings or excuses to shift the goalposts for us not to move forward with these anti-crime talks.
But you know, Mr. Griffith, again last week, the Prime Minister would have raised this whole situation concerning the firearms unit and some of the goings on as it is alleged to have happened under your stewardship as police commissioner. Of course, some of certain allegations have been dogging you for a while now. And I think that last week the prime minister again raised some of these circumstances that are alleged to have happened under your stewardship as police commissioner at the firearms unit. How do you, Mr. Griffith, put these allegations to rest?
Well, that is, here the word allegations. I think allegation, it should be the PNMA, the PNM allegation. That is what they do. Allegation is the one thing the PNM is good at. So you say the same lie over and over. You hope that your blind following would believe it. That is what he did with Emailgate. So you make lies and you hope that people believe it. Allegation. So you have this Stanley John Joker. And for 2 years, you make these assumptions. And for 2 years, not one senior police officer has been arrested. Not one firearm user out of 4,000 have been arrested. Not one firearm dealer has been arrested. It was all lies.
But Mr. Griffith, wasn't eight police officers
over and over, and not one person has ever even been held or charged.
But Mr. Griffith, wasn't 8 police officers charged in connection with the investigation into the issuance of FULs?
Correct.
Yes.
Not one senior police officer, not one firearm owner, and not one firearm dealer after 2 years. So this massive, well-oiled criminal industry, it shows the PNM propaganda, which is why the Prime Minister needed to go to Parliament, because Parliament is the one place you can lie to discredit the character of people without being sued. And so when it is, he said, there are things that I know that you all don't know. Well, then you can say it outside Parliament, because that is not, the court never stopped you from doing it. And that is the point, because he did it in Emailgate. You went there, you smear the character of people, and people believed the lies, where you had 17 different things to show that Emailgate was nothing but typewritten documents to lie about people. Yeah. He did the same thing. It is only in a banana republic, Marlon, that politicians can hire people, pay them big money, call them investigators, let them write what you want, let them give you the report, and then you read it out to smear the character of others. That is what the police is supposed to do. You as a politician hiring persons who you may know write things with it is alleged, it is rumored, and we have heard. If these things were all true, how come nobody has been arrested? How come no one has been held? And that is the difference. So that is why he needed to go to Parliament, because Parliament is where he can go and read out the lies without being sued.
So can you say this morning that no untoward incidents would have happened at the firearms unit while you were police commissioner?
Well, definitely. If you look again, Marlon, 4,000 firearms were issued under my watch. Out of these 4,000, In that 3 years as Commissioner of Police, not one firearm was lost, not one was stolen, not one was used for a crime, not one person was arrested in any way as it pertained to white collar crime under my watch as Commissioner of Police involving FUL dealers, FUL holders, or senior police officers. So it shows that what I did was to make sure that 4,000 law-abiding citizens had the opportunity to defend themselves from criminal elements. And it seemed the government had that problem. So, and again, half of those were for members of the protective services, past or present. So what I did was to ensure that law-abiding citizens had the opportunity to defend themselves if the state was unable to defend them. And it worked.
Yeah.
Dozens upon dozens of lives were saved because of this. So I have no regrets for what I did to ensure that lives were saved and to ensure that law-abiding citizens had the opportunity to defend themselves. And as I said, in 2 years, not one of those 4,000 firearm holders have been arrested. Not one firearm dealer has been arrested. Not one senior police officer has been arrested. So you say the same lie over and over, hope that people believe you. He tried it. He was weighed, measured, and found wanted. He failed. So he wanted to go to Parliament to read out the lies in the hope that he would not be
But
sued
Mr.
by me.
Griffith,
Because
one last question.
What sure matters.
One last question. We only have about 1 minute again, but I have one last question. So what of the Stanley John report? You are going to relegate this to the dustbin, and I want to put it in the context that the report stated that the FUL process was a thriving, well-oiled, white-collar criminal enterprise.
Well, I just said it, man. Let me press rewind and play again. It's so massive. And after 2 years, not one senior police officer has been arrested. Not one firearm holder out of the 4,000 have been arrested. Not one firearm dealer has been arrested. So how you can have this math? Because Stanley Jokey John writes this, that becomes fact because he says so. If he said so, how many people have been arrested? They were all lies. But as I said, when the state pays civilians big money, call them investigators, let them write reports that are false, misleading, to smear the character of others, and then you want to hide in Parliament to read the lies. That is where that floating voter has realized, Keith Rowley, you tried something with Emailgate, it didn't work this time. Yeah. Gary Griffith has provided the opportunity to help the country. I have backed off. The ball is in your court now, Keith.
All right, Mr. Griffith. As always, thank you very much. Nice hoodie. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.